Time to, excuse me, time to rock and roll! Big time! Bon Jovi at number 22 on my fancy playlist. Edge of a Broken Heart. Forgotten about this record. Listen to it for the first time in 35 years just a few minutes ago. And Richie Sambor, he is blazing on those guitars in seismic proportions, particularly when he hits that guitar solo. A torrential downpour of power chords is one downpour that you'd surely enjoy, particularly if you're a Bon Jovi fan. If you like it hard, you like it fast, you like that pounding beat. Yes! Boy, that really gets me going. Nothing like listening to a good hard rock song that completely adrenalizes your day. Oh boy, I just had to get that out of my system. Well, you know it's Friday night. It is right now. Thank God it's Friday. Like that song by Love and Kisses, that disco record, Thank God It's Friday. All right, from heavy metal or hard rock to disco and back to hard rock again, fancy playlist of August 29, 1987. Bon Jovi on the Edge of a Broken Heart. Number 22 on this fancy playlist. God knows, I don't even remember where I heard this song at. It might have been on one of the radio stations out of Birmingham or something. I don't think I saw the video on Night Tracks. Excuse me. My voice is crapping out again. Woo, on the Edge of a Broken Heart. Trying to think of how to get started on this song. Not really a whole lot to talk about. The song was it was written during the making of Slippery When Wet, the album Slippery When Wet, but was not included on the album. But the song found its way on the airplay charts on Billboard, went top 40 on the Billboard airplay, not the Hot 100. It was not released commercially as a single, but it was played some and just barely nicked the top 40 on the airplay charts in Billboard. And it showed up in a movie, a screwball comedy that came out in 1987 called Disorderlies, which starred the Fat Boys. Remember, the Fat Boys got something coming up by them later on. Coming up by them later on in this later on by them on this fancy playlist. Bon Jovi signed to the Mercury record label in 1982. Boy, they really hit their stride by 1987. You Give Love a Bad Name in the fall of 1986. You know what's really sad? And then the even more commercially accessible Living on a Prayer with that killer synthesizer intro. Number one, 2 hard rock songs going to number 1 on Billboard. That's a treat. That it just does not happen that often. Having a good, hard, solid rock and roll record go to number 1 on Billboard's Hot 100. Here's these guys. We're talking about a combination of Bon Jovi, Desmond Child, who co-wrote this song, and Bruce Fairbairn, I believe that's how you pronounce his last name, who produced the album Slippery When Wet, building on that rock foundation and let it flourish with pop influences, and boom, you got yourself on the summit. You're on the summit of the Hot 100, Billboard's Hot 100. I want to give a shout out to Desmond Child. I've already mentioned him in the previous video, in some of the previous videos I did in the past, but I'm going to do it again. One of those behind the scenes figures that you don't hear much about. Desmond Child, he co-wrote this song. He's one of the writers of this song. He co-wrote a lot of things with Bon Jovi. He co-wrote a lot of hit records, a lot of hit hard rock records back in the day. Desmond Child, he was in a band. He was in a sort of a rock funk band called Desmond Child and the Rouge back in the mid-70s. They had a minor thing called Our Love Is Insane. Went to number 51 on Billboard's Hot 100. Afterward, he became a songwriter. Some of his credits, he co-wrote I Hate Myself for Loving You by Joan Jett. And he co-wrote I Was Made for Loving You by Kiss, one of his early success stories as a songwriter. Co-wrote that song with the band, I Was Made for Loving You, a big one for Kiss, back in sort of a disco fusion hard rock record back in the summer of 1979. Dude looks like a lady. He co-wrote that as well with the band members of Aerosmith. But he Poison by Alice Cooper, co-writer on that, or writer on Poison by Alice Cooper. But I tell you this, he also co-wrote songs that outside of the heavy rock field, he co-wrote the song We All Sleep Alone by Cher, and Just Like Jesse James by Cher. That was one of the best songs she did when she made that comeback back in the late late 80s. And later on in 1999, late 90s, he wrote Living La Vida Loca by Ricky Martin, which went to number 1, I do believe, by Ricky Martin. And that was in 1999. He was, Desmond Child was inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2008, and it was much deserved. He did have a hit, not very big. It wasn't very big. He had a hit of his own called Love on a Rooftop, which, if I remember correctly, just barely made top 40. It was co-written with Diane Warren. It was back in the summer of 1991. And speaking of going back to Bon Jovi, a little tidbit that I found out when I did a little research on this record. One of the original lead guitarists of Bon Jovi, Dave the Snake Sabo. Dave the Snake Sabo, he was only lead guitarist for about a couple of weeks, maybe a little longer than that, before he was replaced by Richie Sambora. But a few years later, though, Dave the Snake Sabo, he co-founded the band Skid Row. Remember Skid Row? 18 and Life. You got it, and I'll remember you. And Sebastian Bach, I believe, was the lead singer of that band. Very controversial fellow back in the day. And that he was, I didn't know that Dave the Snake Sabo had a connection with Bon Jovi, but as far as the music goes, in the same musical heavy metal vein right there. So here we are at, it's no surprise that this song got some airplay on radio, because Bon Jovi could do no wrong in 1987. 1988, we're talking about You Give Love a Bad Name in the fall of 86, then Living on a Prayer going to early 87, and then Wanted Dead or Alive by the spring of 1987, and that was a top 10 for Bon Jovi. So On the Edge of a Broken Heart, another hard rock masterpiece. I do think if this song had been released as a single, now, I think the record companies, whoever made the decisions, did the right thing, doing it the way they did. You Give Love a Bad Name, Living on a Prayer, and then Wanted Dead or Alive. But if this had been the 4th single off the album, commercially released as a single, I do believe it would have gone at least top 30, top 20 maybe, possibly top 10. Not number 1 now. It's not a number 1 record, but top 10. Something like 7 or 8 or 9 on Billboard's Hot 100. I like playing these chart mind games with these records. But no mind games here. Well, I guess it is in a way. At number 22, got Bon Jovi up on my fantasy playlist, On the Edge of a Broken Heart. Up 8 from number 30 on this fantasy playlist of August the 29th, 1987.